2 pilots, 1 aircraft, 30 hours in the air, no bed, no shower, no way out. While you slept last night, there were U.S. Air Force pilots 30,000 feet above the earth, flying a $2 billion stealth bomber across entire oceans, eating microwave noodles, napping in a 6-foot metal space, and making split-second decisions that affect the security of this entire nation. No breaks, no landing, just mission. So how do they do it? How does a human being survive and actually perform inside the world's most advanced bomber for over 30 hours straight? That's exactly what we're going to show you today. Introduction. The B-2 Spirit stealth bomber is one of the most remarkable machines ever built by human hands. It can fly across the world without being detected, drop bombs on targets buried deep underground, and return home, all in a single mission that can stretch well beyond 30 hours. But here's what most people never think about. The technology is extraordinary, but none of it works without 2 human beings sitting in that cockpit, staying sharp, staying calm, and keeping it all together for a day and a half without setting foot on the ground. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on what that actually looks like, what these pilots eat, how they sleep, how they manage fatigue, stress, and the physical toll of one of the most demanding jobs on the planet. This is the human side of the B-2, and it's more fascinating than anything Hollywood has ever shown you. If this is the kind of military content that gives you goosebumps, go ahead and type B-2 strong in the comments right now. Let's see how many proud Americans are watching today. The mission reality. Before we get into the details, let's set the scene. The B-2 Spirit is based out of Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Every single operational B-2, all 20 of them, flies out of that one base. It's the only aircraft in the U.S. military that can fly deep into enemy territory, undetected, and deliver a nuclear or conventional payload with precision, and then fly all the way back home. That means missions aren't short hops. They're intercontinental, they're long, they're exhausting. In 2001, during Operation Enduring Freedom, B-2 pilots flew what became the longest combat mission in aviation history, 44 hours in the air, nearly 2 full days without landing. In 2013, B-2s flew from Missouri to Libya and back, a 34-hour round trip. And in June 2025, during Operation Midnight Hammer, B-2s flew a 37-hour mission to strike Iran's underground nuclear facilities at Fordo, one of the most heavily protected targets on Earth. 37 hours. 1 aircraft. 2 pilots. Now think about what 37 hours actually feels like. That's longer than most people go without sleep in their entire lives. And these pilots weren't just sitting there. They were navigating, coordinating mid-air refueling, monitoring stealth systems, managing weapons, and then executing precision strikes on one of the most dangerous missions in modern military history. So the question isn't just how they survive physically. The question is how they stay sharp enough to do all of that at the end of a day and a half in the air. The answer starts long before the plane ever leaves the ground. Preparation before the mission. Here's something that surprises most people. The hardest part of a 30-hour B-2 mission doesn't happen in the air. It happens in the days before takeoff. B-2 pilots selected for a long-range combat mission spend several days working one-on-one with an aerospace physiologist. That's a specialist whose entire job is to prepare the human body and mind for extreme endurance. Together, the pilot and physiologist map out the entire mission timeline and then work backwards from it. When will the pilot need to be at peak alertness? When are the high-risk moments, the air refueling, the weapons release, the return leg, And how do they engineer the pilot's sleep schedule in the days before takeoff so that the body is aligned with those critical windows? Retired Lieutenant General Steve Basham, who flew the B-2 for 9 years, put it plainly. He said, "We go through sleep studies, we actually go through nutritional education to be able to teach each one of us what wakes us up and what helps us go to sleep. This isn't guesswork, it's science." Applied to one of the most demanding situations a human being can face. The night before the mission, pilots follow strict personal routines. One B-2 pilot described it simply, "The day before, I don't want to eat anything too extravagant, and I try to get to bed early." Simple, disciplined, effective. And that discipline, that commitment to preparation, is what separates B-2 pilots from almost every other aviator on Earth. Before we go any further, if you're finding this fascinating, take 2 seconds right now to like this video and hit that subscribe button. We'll keep bringing you content that honors the men and women who serve this great nation. Inside the cockpit. Now let's talk about where these pilots actually live for 30+ hours. The B-2 Spirit cockpit is not what you'd expect from a $2 billion aircraft. It's small, tight, and almost every inch of it is designed around the mission, not around comfort. There are 2 seats side by side. In front of the pilots, a wall of screens and controls, and behind those seats, a space roughly 4 feet wide and 6 feet long, about the size of a twin mattress. That's it. That's the living space for 2 human beings flying halfway around the world. But inside that space, the Air Force has packed in everything the pilots need to survive. There's a fold-down cot, a real improvement over the early days, when Kosovo-era pilots actually bought folding lawn chairs from Walmart and brought them on board. There's a small microwave, a mini fridge, and a compact chemical toilet tucked into the corner. It's not comfortable, not by any stretch, but it works. Here's what makes it even more challenging, and this is something most people never hear about. The B-2 generates its own oxygen by pulling it directly from the outside atmosphere. That process strips nearly all the moisture out of the air inside the cockpit. The result? Pilots are breathing air that is almost completely dry for 30+ hours straight. An official spokesperson from Whiteman Air Force Base confirmed it directly. Pilots have to constantly hydrate while still experiencing issues like dried and cracking skin, even with regular water intake throughout the flight. And there's no shower, no change of clothes. The pilots wear a full harness, a life jacket, and a survival vest over their flight suits. Changing would take far too long and far too much effort mid-mission. So after landing a combat mission lasting over 30 hours, these pilots come home in the same clothes they left in, exhausted, dehydrated, and every bit as professional as when they took off. That's what service actually looks like. How they sleep. Sleep on a B-2 mission is not something that just happens. It has to be engineered. Lieutenant Colonel Nikki Rogue Polidor, a B-2 pilot and the 509th Bomber Wing's Chief of Safety, explained it clearly. She said, "When you're faced with a 24-hour mission or a long-duration mission, you really get into the details of who is going to do what task and how we're going to manage our sleep. The timing of every task needs to be set in advance so that we're both prepared to be in the seat, ready to go for all the air refueling and the weapons activity, and then of course landing." Think about that level of planning. Every nap, every rest window, every moment of downtime, scheduled, coordinated, and reviewed before the wheels ever leave the runway. In practice, pilots take turns. One flies while the other rests. Naps run between 2 to 3 hours at a time, and they have to be planned around the crunch points, the moments in the mission that require both pilots to be awake and fully alert. Air refueling is one of those moments. Mid-air refueling from a tanker aircraft is one of the most delicate maneuvers in aviation. The B-2 has to pull up within feet of a massive tanker plane, hold position with precision, and accept a refueling boom extending 16 feet behind the tanker, all while flying at altitude, possibly in the dark, possibly in bad weather. Pilots have described finishing that 30-minute procedure completely drenched in sweat. It demands everything, so neither pilot is asleep during refueling, and neither is sleeping during weapons deployment, or takeoff, or landing. What's left between those windows is what they use for rest, and they use every minute of it. Here's something worth sitting with for a second. Imagine being so tired your body is screaming for sleep and knowing that you cannot fully give into it. You get a couple hours, you get back up, you perform, and you do that over and over again for a day and a half. That's not just flying, that's a different kind of strength entirely. What they eat. Now let's talk food, because this part is more strategic than most people realize. B-2 pilots don't just throw whatever they want into a bag and call it a day. Every food choice on a long mission is made with intention. The goal is simple: keep the body fueled, keep the mind sharp, and avoid anything that causes digestive issues in a very small, very enclosed space. An Air Force spokesperson confirmed it directly. We work with the pilots to offer suggestions for what to eat and when to eat, but each individual really brings what they want. Hydration, they emphasized, is absolutely critical for a mission of this length. In practice, the meals lean heavily toward bland, easy-to-digest foods. Turkey sandwiches on wheat bread, protein bars, instant noodles heated up in that small cockpit microwave. Sunflower seeds, not just for the nutrition, but because the physical act of eating them slowly gives the brain steady stimulation and helps fight off mental fatigue. One pilot described the balance this way: if you eat too much, you're going to feel terrible, and that is going to impact your performance. But if you don't eat anything, you're also going to feel miserable. So you've got to find that happy middle point. That middle point is something each pilot figures out through training and experience. The aerospace physiologist helps, the nutritional education helps, but ultimately, the pilot has to know their own body well enough to fuel it correctly at 30,000 feet for 30 hours straight. Coffee plays a role too, but carefully. Caffeine is timed deliberately. It's not sipped continuously throughout the mission. It's saved for the high workload windows, the moments where peak alertness matters most. Physiologists give specific guidance on timing and dosage based on the mission profile and each pilot's individual tolerance. The goal is never to rely on caffeine as a crutch. It's to use it as a precision tool when the body hits its limit. Here's where it gets serious. Even with perfect preparation, perfect nutrition, and perfectly timed rest, the human body has limits. And on a mission lasting 37 or 44 hours, those limits get tested hard. The U.S. Air Force has a solution that's been part of long-range aviation for decades. And it's not talked about often, but it's real. When fatigue reaches a critical point, when other methods like naps, caffeine, and in-flight exercise have been exhausted, pilots can be prescribed a low-dose stimulant. Dextroamphetamine, what pilots call a go pill. These are not taken lightly. Every pilot must first be ground tested under full medical supervision before they're ever cleared to use one in flight. The dosage is low and carefully controlled, and they are strictly the last resort, used only after every other fatigue management tool has already been deployed. According to research cited by the Air Force, even after 48 hours of sleep deprivation, dextroamphetamine is highly effective at restoring cognitive function back toward baseline. In a combat environment, That restored decision-making ability can be the difference between mission success and catastrophe. And when the mission is done, there are strict do-not-fly rest periods required to ensure the stimulant has fully cleared the pilot's system before they touch a cockpit again. Beyond medication, the Air Force is also investing in the future of fatigue management. Advanced research programs are developing non-invasive technology to passively monitor pilot physiology in real time, tracking heart rate, breathing patterns, brainwave activity, and eye movement. The goal is to identify signs of performance degradation before the pilot even feels them. Smart flight suits with built-in sensors, AI-driven analytics, continuous monitoring that keeps pace with what the human body is doing in real time. The B-2 has always been ahead of its time, and the science keeping its pilots mission ready is catching up to match it. The moment it all comes together. Let's bring it all together with Operation Midnight Hammer, June 2025. B-2 Spirit bombers lifted off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Their target, Iran's deeply buried nuclear facilities, including the Fordo enrichment site, built inside a mountain, designed specifically to survive conventional strikes. The mission lasted 37 hours. Those pilots had spent days with physiologists aligning their sleep. They had planned every rest window, every refueling window, every weapons window down to the minute. They packed their food. They prepared their bodies. And then they flew. Multiple mid-air refuelings across 2 oceans. Hours of tense, focused flying through airspace where any mistake, any system glitch, any navigational error could compromise everything. And at the end of it, they dropped their payload with precision. Bunker buster bombs that tore through reinforced concrete and buried themselves deep before detonating. The kind of strike that only the B-2 can deliver. The kind of mission that only its pilots can complete. Then they turned around and flew home. 37 hours. Dry skin. Sweat soaked from refueling. Running on naps and noodles and the kind of discipline that most people will never fully understand. That's the B-2 spirit. That's the U.S. Air Force, and that's what it means to carry the weight of American security on your shoulders at 30,000 feet. Conclusion: the B-2 is a marvel of engineering, but the real miracle, the thing that makes every mission possible, is the 2 human beings inside it. Their preparation, their endurance, their absolute refusal to let the mission fail. If this video gave you a deeper respect for the men and women who fly these missions, share it with someone who needs to see it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We've got more content coming that honors the strength and sacrifice of the U.S. Armed Forces. These pilots don't ask for recognition, but they've more than earned it.